Hey everybody! So we're continuing on with our season previews, and today is Detroit Red Wings Day. Before we get into the video, I just quickly want to say that if you enjoy this video, please hit that like button and give it a thumbs up. That really helps out the channel. And if you're not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button for great hockey content all year long. Now, the Detroit Red Wings, this is a team that has been going through a rebuild and is still going through a rebuild. They haven't made the playoffs in a number of years. And I think there's going to be a lot of competition for roster spots come training camp for the Red Wings, probably more than most other teams in the league. There are a lot of lineup spots up for grabs with this team. They're a young team for the most part, with some longtime veterans sprinkled in, but still very much a rebuilding young team with a lot of players who aren't quite proven at the NHL level yet, aren't quite developed fully yet. They're a team that I really think is headed in the right direction. I really think this team in the future, down the road, is going to be a perennial playoff team and potentially a perennial Stanley Cup contender if they continue on the path that they are on. Now, I don't think they're there yet. I still think they're a little too young. I think that, they're lacking, they need these young guys to develop a little bit more, become consistent NHL players, and that only happens through time, that only happens through experience. These guys are certainly going to get that experience this year, I think, because I think we're going to see a lot of young players in this lineup. But let's look and see what we got here. Again, this is a team that I don't think is there yet. I don't think is ready to make that next step yet. But I do see improvement from, and I do think is going, certainly headed in the right direction. And, not too far down the road is going to be a much improved team. So here we go for the lineup here. We've got the top line, Tyler Bertuzzi, Dylan Larkin, and Anthony Mantha, all under the age of 25 years old. I love this top line. Love this top line. Bertuzzi and Mantha are both, scrappy guys who can certainly put up points and certainly score goals. Both had 20-goal seasons last year. I think that Mantha, you're looking at a guy who should become a perennial 30-goal scorer year in and year out. Bertuzzi's kind of that agitator type player. They're both big and physical. I love this top line for the Detroit Red Wings. Then Dylan Larkin, I think he should be the captain of the team already, even at just 23 years old. 72 points last year. He keeps getting better and better. He's going to be a star player in this league. He already is. He's a great player, and I think Dylan Larkin is kind of the man going forward for the Red Wings. So I love this top line. They're young. They're very talented. They're physical. They're a lot more physical than you would expect from such a young and highly talented top line. But it's just, the pieces are there. The pieces are there for the future to be very good in Detroit. Second line, Andreas Athanasiou, Franz Nielsen, and then Taro Hirose I have penciled in on that right side. Again, there are so many options for this team. I don't know, maybe Hirose doesn't make the team. He's somebody who only played 10 games last year, but he had 7 points in those 10 games, and he's certainly a talented player. When we get to the third line, you'll see Filip Zadina I have penciled in there. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's not NHL ready yet. He's only 19. I would, think the Red Wings are hoping that he's NHL ready, being a 6th, overall pick. But, who knows? They have options in this lineup. But so don't take these lines combinations for really as anything, because this lineup can be very fluid. This lineup can move around a lot, and there are players that certainly could end up being in, and some of these guys could end up being out. Third line, Adam Erne, who they just picked up from the Tampa Bay Lightning. I love that move. I like that move so much for Detroit. Big, physical, young player, power forward type. Not a ton of offense, but as a bottom 6 guy, can really bring a lot to the lineup. I love that move. Valtteri Filppula coming back to Detroit after a number of years away. Veteran guy to center the third line. And then assuming Filip Zadina is ready, we'll play it on the right side there on the third line. And then your fourth line, Jacob de la Rose, Luke Glendening, who I think has solidified himself as the fourth line center on this team. And then Justin Abdelkader on the other side. Abdelkader is somebody they can move in or out of the lineup. De La Rose is somebody that could be in or out of the lineup, depending if they want to go young, if they want to go veteran, or whatever. We're going to see so many different players play for Detroit this year. It's really hard to kind of piece together a lineup for them, because I don't think they're really going to have a consistent day in and day out lineup, because I think there are a lot of guys we're going to see also getting playing time. We'll talk about them later. Defense, Danny DeKeyser and Filip Hronek as your top defense pair. Hronek's only 21. I want to see him get a real shot at the top four this year. It's time to put the veterans on the back burner here for Detroit, especially their defense core. It's time to put, Kronwall's gone. Jonathan Ericsson should be a healthy scratch most of the time. It's time to put, Trevor Daley, even I would probably scratch most of the time. Listen, it's time to give these kids a chance. You're a rebuilding team. You're probably not going to make the playoffs this year. Give these kids a chance and see what you have with these guys. I want to see Hronek and Cholowski get serious top four minutes and top four consideration, and I want to see what they can do. How good can these guys be? Second pair, I have Dennis Cholowski and Mike Green. Pretty good offensive second pair there. And then they brought in Patrick Nemeth from Colorado, and then Trevor Daley rounding out as your sixth defenseman, which then leaves Jonathan Ericsson as your number 7 and Madison Bowie as another, eighth defenseman. Again, maybe Daley's out and Bowie's in. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Again, very fluid lineup. A lot of options here for the coaches in Detroit. Goaltender, your goaltending duo is going to be the same that it's been. Jimmy Howard and Jonathan Bernier. Not a bad duo. Howard, I still think, is a pretty good goalie. Certainly not as good as he was when the team was a lot better, but still a pretty good goalie. And then Bernier's a fine backup. Neither of these guys are your answer long-term. I think the goaltending is certainly a long-term position that the Red Wings need to look at. Now, I don't know what they have for goaltending prospects in the pipeline, but they definitely need to find a goalie of the future. If 2-3 years down the road they're going to start becoming a powerhouse team, they're definitely going to need to find a goaltender of the future. But for right now, Howard and Bernier is fine for what the rebuilding team that they are. Now, other players, Darren Helm's still there. I have him as an extra forward at this point, although he could certainly come in for Jacob de la Rose or Adam Ernie or Abdelkader. I mean, there are options there. And then both Christopher N. and Michael Rasmussen ended up playing a lot of games for the Red Wings last year. They also have Evgeny Svechnikov and Dominic Turgeon, who could potentially be in the NHL lineup this year. So there are a lot of guys that they could move in and out of this lineup. I don't think you're going to see a lot of consistency as far as who's in and who's out, because I think a lot of these different players are going to get looks. And then once you get injuries start to happen, you start calling guys up, we're going to see a lot of players play for the Red Wings this year. They're a rebuild team that I think, at this point, you want to see what you have with these guys. And there are only 12 forward spots and 6 defensive spots. And they've got a lot more players than that are looking to make the NHL roster. So I think we're going to see a lot of different line combinations, a lot of different players in and out of the lineup, and it's going to come down to who plays the best and who doesn't. And I think the best players are going to play. And, this is a team that is improving. This is a team that is getting better. This is a team that is not there yet. They are not ready yet to make that playoff push, but they're very young and they've got a lot of talent. It's just about gaining that experience needed and putting it all together and then, really taking that next step to being a playoff team. So I don't think this is the year for the Red Wings that, you know, they make that big jump, but I do like the direction that they're heading in very much. I think they have some incredibly good pieces, especially young pieces, both up front and on the blue line. And I think overall this is a team that if you're patient with them, if you're patient with this team as a fan, you're going to be happy with where they end up down the road. And the fact that they have Steve Yzerman now running this rebuild, putting this team together as a GM, I think is absolutely incredible. We've seen what Yzerman, you know, the team, the juggernaut he put together in Tampa Bay. I think that, you know, looking down the road 5-6 years, maybe this team could be that type of juggernaut. We could see the Detroit Red Wings once again being a perennial powerhouse team in the NHL. So, not ready yet, but I really like the direction they're headed in Detroit. And, you know, it's another year of rebuild for them, but it's going to pay off long term in my mind. I really like a lot of the pieces. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.